always make this announcement. If it rains, which sometime it will, just please go out in the hall, and then you can certainly come back in and join the meeting. If you will stand, I will give an invocation and then the pledge of allegiance. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to come tonight and have this meeting, and we pray for wisdom for these commissioners that we have here. And we want to pray for all of those that have lost loved ones due to COVID, and just pray that you will let it vanish from this country, and we lift this country up to you. And we have many issues and many needs now. We need your blessings more than ever. And we just, again, thank you for each and every blessing that you send our way. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, I would like the commissioners to do one thing, is check, make certain your microphones are on, and actually pull them up to you. I've been asked to make this announcement because, you know, that we're live streaming this meeting, and so that the audience can hear listening in. Having said that, Ms. Gaines, if you would call the roll for us, please.
I, Olympia Gaines, President as Clerk of the Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman Roy Thompson.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Jackie Stringer.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Kurt Deal.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
Commissioner Walter Gibson.
Aye.
I have determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. And now, your full attention.
Thank you very much. We're going to next move into our zoning agenda. I'm sure all of y'all have looked that over, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Motion carries. Mr. Newman.
All right, we have 3 items tonight. Starting off with item number 1, Donald E. Smith and Lisa Hollingsworth submitted an application to rezone 58.57 acres from R40 to R25 for a residential subdivision. This item was tabled at March 2nd Board of Commissioners meeting for the applicant's request. John Johnson will be acting as agent tonight, and you look at your screen. This is the property on Kiwanis. It's right next to Bradford Place subdivision. There you can see the subdivision. This was the sign located on the property. This is the Kiwanis Road, and across Kiwanis Road, and back down towards the elementary school on Kiwanis Road. And this is the property as it is now. It's pretty much just a field. And this is the proposed sketch. Mr. Dodson. Now, you do have, everybody has a copy of this, and there was some discussion between Mr. Couch and the applicant about the conditions, and I do believe that you had been stricken. Correct?
Yes, either stricken or otherwise revised. And I think they're noted and bolded in red in the conditions schedule.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is John Dotson, representing the applicant tonight. This property, as Randy said, is located on Kiwanis Road. Our plan is divided into, I believe, 63 single-family residential lots. We'll have its own water system. Each lot will be subject to a septic tank approval from the Bulloch County Health Department. There were a number of conditions that the county has placed on there, and as Randy and Mr. Couch alluded to, the discussion was held, and some of those items were stricken. I would like to go down through those and then come back to 1, 2, 3 items in particular. If you look in y'all have the attached sheet, number 9 was taken out, which is fine. We just have one road going in, one road going out. Number 19 was changed to, well, the whole plan is to sod the front of the yard from the road to the front of the building and to the side yards. Everything on the back, on the side yards and the rear would be the grass would be seeded and grass would grow up. The front part would be put in there and it is sodded. Just run on down. Everything else, you get to number 21 was taken out. 23 was taken out. 31 was taken out again. It's the same as the other one. And then a wastewater concept report was taken out. There was one thing in my discussion with one of the applicants as early as this morning. The items number 16, 17, and 18 refer to landscape plans and that kind of thing. I'd like to read to you what the applicant is requesting for these items. Number 16 is they are requesting that each lot owner provide landscaping on their individual lot. So we're requesting a formal neighborhood landscape plan be omitted. Number 17, their plan is to plant iliagnus along the right of the way of the road in an area that goes from Statesboro to Savannah down 67, the hammocks. You'll see what the iliagnus screen looks like. It's grown to such a height you can barely tell which building's there, even after they widen Highway 67. And then item number 19, they are planning on including within the restricted covenants that the neighborhood, they take care of their the landscaping on their individual lot. One other item to note, the covenants on this subdivision will mirror the covenants that are already in place on Bradford Place, which is an adjacent neighborhood. I think you'll agree with me and the developer has been doing this for a number of years. I would say how long, but I would embarrass him. I don't want to tell you age. But needless to say, I've been working for this family now. I'm working on the 3rd generation. So it tells you how long I've been doing it and how long he's been doing it. So I'll sit down, answer any questions that you may have. The applicant is in the audience as well. He may have some items to add.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of Mr. Dotson?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, are you asking that 16 and 17 be stricken or amended?
Amended to the statements that we have.
Okay, well, so that we can describe it in the record properly, I think I understood you to say that there were going to be covenants, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have 16, 17, and 19? Randy, Randy?
Yes.
Or Randy, or Randy Sandy? Just for clarity, I'm not seeing anything about the individual lots, the lot landscaping that you referenced. Am I missing that? Well, my recommendation, 17 would cover what they would want to do.
Yes.
So, my recommendation if the only landscaping is required for a buffer around a well fence or well structure and a street side buffer, 17 ought to remain adequate as 18. So I would probably recommend striking 16 because I don't think we need a formal landscape plan just to get a street side buffer and a Billy Agnes's around the well as they mentioned. So I think it would be adequate to leave 17 and 18 intact and just strike 16.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
17 accomplishes
Yeah.
what you want, sorry. 18 is pretty typical.
Yes.
But we just don't get a landscape plan for
Right.
that level of landscaping. If we were doing Hilton Bed or something, that'd be different.
Right.
All right?
So we're in agreement to strike 16, is that what you're saying? Only? And leave 17, 18, and 19 as are?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. 18 is a general one that we normally do about the well. And then 19, we do like to have the sod in the front yard.
Yeah.
Anything that's solar.
Right, they're in agreement with putting the side to the front of the house
Okay.
and see the rest of it.
So the only thing that we is good with dropping 16, right?
Technically 17 would be permitted, just to be every Agnes on that.
Well, I think 17 is broad enough to allow you the choice of what you want to put in. So if you put in the way Agnes, that would be sufficient.
Okay.
17 approved.
You through?
Yes, sir.
All right.
If they are.
Mr. Chairman, I got Donald Neesmith signed up to speak. If he needs to.
Yes, sir. Mr. D. Smith, you need to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to speak, I just want to sign up in case I had to speak. Thank you. I didn't want y'all to tell me I couldn't speak, so I wouldn't speak.
The only thing I would tell you, you can't speak from back there. You'd have to come to the podium and state your name, rank, and serial number to be able to speak.
I think the microphone would pick them up from there.
All right, we're gonna turn it over to the commissioners now. And commissioners, you have any questions or comments? And everybody understands what about conditions.
Mr. Chairman, if no further questions, everybody understand that I offer a motion for approval, including the revised conditions.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Well, a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you all for coming. You're certainly welcome to stay here for the rest of the meeting.
All right. Item number 2, Robert K. Bell Jr. Incorporated submitted an application for conditional use to allow single-family dwellings in a highway commercial zone district. The request is for lots 4, 5, 6, and 7, as shown on the attached sketch by James M. Anderson and Associates Incorporated. The property is located at the intersection of Highway 301 North and Old River Road. Mr. Jim Anderson will be acting as agent tonight. Planning and zoning recommended to approve the request by a unanimous decision with the understanding lot 6 must exit on the Highway 301 North. The reason being, a flag lot is not permitted in highway commercial zone districts. They have sent me an updated sketch, but it will not, you will not have it, but you will be able to see it on here. This is the property in question. Most everything around it is Ag 5, but there is some highway commercial right at the intersection. And part of it is on this property. This is the sign located on the property. This is 301 back towards town. You can see I took photos in the rainy season. This is the store across the road. This is the intersection. And this is the property part of it. This is the convenience store across the road. And this is the overview kind of show you the whole property. And you can see in the orange on your screen, that is the highway commercial property. And they have changed a couple of lots to take out the flag lot on the highway commercial. Mr. Anderson, if you would.
Thank you, Randy and Chairman Thompson and Commissioners. I am Jim Anderson and I represent Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell's here with us tonight. This property is on the east side of 301 North and the south side of Old River Road. We're planning on dividing the 56 acres into 10 residential lots, and the sketch shows one commercial lot at the intersection. For these parcels that we wanted to put single-family residence on fall within a commercial zone, so that to enable us to be able to put a single-family residence on these 4 lots, we would have to ask for a conditional use. So that's what we're here for. Staff review showed no issues with this request and actually recommended approval. And again, I would say we've revised this sketch to take out the flag lot that was picked up on, that we had created a flag lot in a commercial zone, which is not permitted in a commercial zone. So we amended lot 6 so it does not have that access to Old River Road. Planning and zoning, as Randy said, approved this conditional use with a unanimous vote, and we would ask that you approve our request. I'm going to ask, Robbie and I have talked about this afternoon. We don't know the answer to it, so we're going to ask, and if we can't do it, we'll be told we can't do it. I don't know if we could add the tract that we show on the corner as a commercial lot into this request as well, to allow our single-family residents on the commercial lot, as well as those 4 lots, lot 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to ask. We're here to ask for lots 4, 5, 6, and 7. But if this board could allow us to put a residence on that commercial lot, we would like to ask for a conditional use on that as well. And we'll try to answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Anderson, my opinion would be no, because it was specific on the application for the 4 lots, and that was the way it was advertised, and I don't see what we could change it tonight.
We suspect that would be the answer, but we were going to ask. We like Mr. Neesmith, we wanted to just ask.
Well, I think the better solution, and I should have thought of this in retrospect, but on the lots that you actually wanted the single family housing, it probably would have been better to do some kind of corrective zoning and just make it all Ag 5. But, it's really kind of nickel one way, 5 cents the other. But, yeah, I agree with Randy because of the way it was represented in the public hearing and everything. I think that would be difficult to accommodate that. But I asked Randy, does this have to come back for any kind of sketch plan?
No, sir. We discussed that, at the last meeting with Jeff.
Okay. I'd like to make one recommendation. I don't know if you've got those 2 flag lots. I don't know, I'm a little concerned about having 2 driveways that close together. Is it possible to take one of those flag poles and, for example, I can't even read which lot it is, sorry. Can you zoom that thing up?
No, not on here. No.
Okay, but I mean, if you could, oh yeah, like this one right here, is it possible to move the access closer down here, or is it too wet?
I didn't have the lots.
Yeah. Okay, just asking.
Well, Mr. Couch, we had talked about changing the zoning, but, the applicant decided that he'd rather keep it highway commercial for future in case it was ever needed. And also on 301, Jim, you did talk to DOT, and you're gonna have to put driveways together on these lots, right? You're gonna have to double up.
Yes, we presented driveway plans to not only DOT, but Georgia Power, because we're crossing their power line easement. So we're traversing those issues with DOT and Georgia Power, and I think we've got both of them happy at this point. We've got I think I've got a sketch. Lot 1 would have an individual drive. Lot 2 has an existing drive that's already there. Lots 3 and 4 would share a drive. Lot 5 would have an individual drive, and since we took away the flag lot on Lot 6, we had to add an additional driveway on 301 for Lot 6. That was one of the reasons we were trying to do flag lot, but DOT's looking at this drawing and Georgia Power, and we seem to be satisfying them.
Okay. So, Mr. Couch, are you okay if they do the two together? Because I think once you get further down, Jim, gets wet, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's wet. We got it where it needs to be, to do the 2 flag lots on the whole river road.
Randy, can I say something?
Mr. Bell's the applicant.
Mr. Couch, if you'd like, on lot, can't read that lot number, is that 8 and 9? I'm sorry, 9 and 10. Oh, thank you. 9 and 10, if it would make you feel better, we could do a joint driveway for those 2 lots. There actually is a culvert right there where those 2 lots intersect, and I did not plan on adding any additional culverts, so that can be a joint driveway for those 2 lots.
I think that would help. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of traffic up there anyway, but I think it would make it a little bit safer. Yeah, if you could accommodate that.
Absolutely.
I could sleep better at night or something.
And I actually envision lot 8 probably using that driveway as well, and when we do the final plat, I had planned on putting an easement in place there where they would come on and use that. If they ended up coming and trying to get an additional driveway later, that would be between them and the county. But as Jim said, right there along the road, it does go down and drops off. So my goal was actually to try to access all 3 of them from the existing driveway, but I would be willing to commit to a joint use drive for 9 and 10 right now and show that on the plat so that they were not seeking an additional driveway there.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Are y'all as confused as I am as far as what we're fixing to vote on?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this conditional use with the joint driveways between 9 and 10, I believe.
All right, what about the commercial lot? Does anybody need an explanation on that?
I think we're kind of anchored by the nature of the application and the ordinance, but I think as Mr. Rushing moved, his motion was to approve the application as is with the driveway modification.
Okay.
So we probably all just confused you, but very simply, it's going back to the original application with the modification for the joint driveway.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, have a motion, second, any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, item number 3, Tracy Gerardo submitted an application for conditional use to allow an automotive paint shop in an existing accessory structure under the cottage industry definition. The property is located at 7112 Silson Leafield Road. Planning and zoning recommendation was to approve by unanimous vote. If You can see on the screen, this is the property. It's not far from Leafield. It's closer to Leafield than it is Stilson. This is the property. Sign located on the property. This is Leafield, Leafield Road, excuse me, back towards Stilson. And there are a few residential homes in the nearby area. And this is the other direction, and this is a sign he has on the property. And he has a driveway that goes back, that goes to his house, and then you wander back through there, and there is a dirt road that goes back to his shop. So it's well off the road, and you can't see it from the road. And this is his shop that he has back there. And this is an overview. You can see where the house is, and then you can see where the shop is also. Mr. Gerardo, if you will.
Yeah, we just trying to open up a body shop. We've been in this business a long time, and so we need to kind of rezone it to a cottage industry. That's why we're here.
Mr. Chairman, staff recommended approval of this request, and there's also, for the applicant's reminder, there is a definition of cottage industry in here that they have to meet all the requirements of it.
And you have no problem meeting those requirements for the cottage?
It's good out there. I mean, biggest thing I seen in any of it was maybe a square footage. If I needed to put another building or something like that, maybe a square footage. And I don't know if it'd be a problem. I think the way it reads is what, 2,400 square feet or something like that. That would be our own thing. We do a lot of buses, school buses and big truck stuff, so I might have to have a little bigger shop eventually. That'd be my only concern.
Yeah, that might require a variance or some type of rezoning.
Right. And of course, you can always come back for that.
Yeah.
And looks like you have a nice dirt road out there.
Yeah, we just have
Holding the rain pretty well. All right. Do you have any other comments?
No, sir.
All right. Anything else from you? Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we'll go ahead and approve.
Second. Have a motion, have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you for coming, and I hope you well in your business.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have tonight.
All right, well, thank you very much. Gonna move along to the general agenda. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any further discussion or modifications desired by the county manager or the board? Hearing none, then do I have a motion to approve the general agenda?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. General agenda is approved. We will now move into public comments, and to remind everyone that might want to speak, you have 4 minutes. And when the horn goes off, if you would just please stop, and we certainly would appreciate it. We appreciate everybody coming and having an opportunity to say what's on their mind. Do we have anyone signed up tonight?
Mr. Gonter?
Good evening. I'm back to talk about the recycling process that's going on in the county, to see if they're going to go back to the way they were doing it previous to this things going on with the flu and everything, pandemic. And to see that, to get all the stuff recycled at the same procedure they used before. I'm interested in retrieving things that can be used by people not quite, that maybe can't afford
a lot of stuff for their children and stuff, like I retrieve bicycles and things of that nature. And that, and I'm not doing any dumpster diving, I'm not going inside or anything, you know. But I would just like to see it get back to the way it was, the cardboard in one place, the aluminum in one place, the steel in one place. Because now, you got everything in all the bins. There's nothing separated. Steel would be the biggest thing, you know, that's separated, but you still see other stuff in there that shouldn't be there. And, you know, if there's anything I can do to help with the process, I'd be happy to do it. Like I said, I got a lot of time on my hands, and so just try to like to help somebody else if I possibly can. And so that's where I stand. It's like it was before. I just and I've talked to a lot of people who would like to see, other than myself, who think you should get back to the processing. And I know I called around and tried to, you said about the cardboard, there's no market for it, and I understand that because I made a few telephone calls to see what I could find out, and there's there's nothing there. So, but now with the other stuff, you know, the steel and aluminum and things of that nature, there's a place for that, the market. But now, plastic bottles, I think if they would separate those, I think that there could be a market for that. I know Coca-Cola and Pepsi want to get theirs back. And so if they want to get theirs back, I would think it would be a place to start, you know, as opposed to seeing them lay along the roads. So I don't know, that's just, but I just came to see what y'all had in mind as far as the processing, recycling, everything. And I hope I don't get in trouble for picking things up that somebody else can use. So
I wanted
that's all I have
to share with y'all. I did have a we had a meeting, and you know, he showed me pictures of things that he had reclaimed, and I guess families that we talked about where the families he gave them to and everything. It's, you know, it's great what he's trying to do or is doing without dumpster diving, and I know we have ordinance against dumpster diving. So, you know, my biggest concern or question was how. Is there some way we can work out something that, you know, and when I say he, I guess I'm talking about other citizens also. If there's a bike there on top, that they can pick it up and get it out of there without getting into the dumpster. I mean, it's just it's an idea, and it's an idea I think that we really need to look at to see if we can accommodate that in any way. I'm amazed at all of the bicycles and games and toys and things like that people are throwing away. And, you know, I'm amazed when I see them. Some of them look almost brand new. I'm amazed when I see them after Jeff has gotten them out and cleaned them up. And, but now the second part of the question, I don't have an answer for the recycling. Tom, do you have any additional information? I know at present time the reason you put them all in one container and it doesn't really matter is when you take them to the landfill, they're all put together anyway. They're all dumped in a vehicle and carried away. And Dink, have you heard anything about recycling beginning with aluminum or?
No, well, we're recycling metal. All of the metal goes in the same container, but we do recycle the metal. And we recycle the tires just strictly because we have to, with EPD requiring that separation. But the other products, the market is just not there. There's multiple reasons for that. Is that the contamination rates for what you process has gotten more strict, and people don't see the difference between corrugated cardboard and cardboard that may be on the drink that holds drink boxes together, or pizza boxes with food contaminations and things like that. So the contamination is one of the things that restricts us from not being able to process, but the market's just not buying recyclables right now. We still have at least one load of cardboard at transfer station that we've not been able to get rid of. At this point, we've had that for over a year now. So there's just not a real market to move it. So it's still, that cardboard's still sitting there. We hope at some point in time we get them to pick it up. But there's really no value. When we quit with cardboard, I think we were getting 20 some few dollars a ton for it. It was costing us right at $50-something a ton to actually process it and get it ready for pickup. And it's one of those things where we're upside down. I think Mr. Couch said it best a while back when he said, when the market shows us that it has some kind of long-term sustainability to it, that we would consider getting back in, but it's going to take us revamping our recycling process and what materials we actually accept, because we've been operating on, what was it, a 1980s or 90s model of recycling ever since it started. So we definitely need to make some changes as to how we would do it and what we would accept. But the biggest thing is the public's not willing to participate in making sure that we don't have the contamination, which makes it really, really hard for us to get rid of with that level of contamination. If the market gets back, we're really going to have to educate the public on that contamination issue.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it any better. I mean, we try to monitor and watch market reports every 6 months or so, and ever since the China soared, you know, nothing's really turning around. And I think if it does come back, I'm not altogether certain that plastic bottles are going to be accepted. You know, there's a lot of economics that go into the particular types of materials, but you know, there's different kinds of packaging for different kinds of products now, and I think for the manufacturers of the products, it's just cheaper as a part of their process to, you know, order something new than to use recycled materials, because like Dink says, the contamination issue is very costly and those materials are unacceptable. So, you know, until that turns around, I mean, we're going to monitor it and we're going to examine it, but we don't see any big wide opportunities to get into it without substantially more cost of what it would take to dispose it. It's an unfortunate problem, but yeah, the old model doesn't work until a new model arises. That's kind of where they're at. And just to extend it slightly further, when the new model does come, you know, we expanded that recycling processing center up on Lakeview Road based on the 1990s model. I'm a little bit concerned that when we get into, you know, if we get into recycling again, or those conveyor belts and the way everything is processed, you know, is what we have going to work for separating and baling the products. It's a complicated process, and I know it breaks everybody's heart, but you know, we can't recycle something that nobody's taken.
Mr. Carroll, do you think if the state of Georgia had a deposit on their Coke bottles and Pepsi bottles and things of that nature, there would be a lot less those things laying along the roads?
Well, I have to remind myself that I'm live on Facebook, so as I sanitize my thoughts and language, I will tell you this. I was born and raised in a state that in the early 70s had a bottle and deposit law, and especially during COVID, they think it's a big pain in the keister right now, but it is effective, not only for recycling, but also litter control. You know, if you drive in my home state, I'm not going to say you don't see litter, but you don't see the amount of plastic and aluminum and metal containers that you do here in Georgia. But at the risk of getting Coca-Cola mad one more time this month, it'll be over their dead body before you see a deposit law in Georgia, I believe. Yeah, well, let's throw in the beer manufacturers too, Miller down in Albany and a couple other places. No, I believe that would be a tough sell in the state, even though I personally would support it. Of course, I wouldn't want 10 cents, 5 cents per container is sufficient.
Well, the only other thing reason I like to see the stuff recycled like it was before, you got everything separated in containers. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into containers that, people could use. But the way it is now, everything's mixed together, the cardboard and a lot of aluminum and plastics and all that. And, if there's something in there that's reusable, when that truck goes out there to put that big shovel on there, you know, and squeeze up, it runs everything in there, so there's not much you can salvage out of it.
Yeah, it's not pretty, then it becomes true waste, but, you know, going back to the dumpster diving, I guess that sounds better than scavenging. My only concern with that is risk management, and I did speak with Mr. Gunner over the telephone. I regret I couldn't get with him because the last 3 or 4 weeks have been kind of fast and furious, but I basically just told him, well, if you're going to do that, I really don't want to hear about it.
Well, I was dumpster dive. I can pick it out, but I'm not getting in there.
Yeah.
I have seen people that do that though.
Yeah, and the risk is that there are probably people who do that who are less benevolent than you are. But if they get hurt and they sue the county, you know, that's a risk.
I feel like you got signs up, so they don't have a suit because of the fact that you've got signs up that says do not do that.
Well, maybe they don't have a legitimate suit, but it doesn't prevent them. And you know, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, be difficult. I'm just saying, you know, the original intent of that ordinance was well intended. It was intended to protect the public at large, and I just wish we had a better recycling solution right now. That's probably the best thing I can say.
Well, I didn't want to take up so much of your time. I just wanted to see where you all stood on this.
We certainly appreciate your coming. I think you see it's a work in progress. We don't have the answer. It was working quite well at one time, but that time has changed. But I do want to thank you for your efforts in trying to help people. And it's like, I guess, to say piggyback on what Tom said, at the present time, I don't see or I don't know. So, but to welcome you back at any meeting that you would like to come to.
Well, I appreciate it.
It's all citizens. So, but we do appreciate your coming.
If I could be of any help, I'd be happy to.
All right, so thank you very much. Anyone else signed up?
Ms. Barr?
Okay, Ms. Barr.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Barr. I live at 212 East Mockingbird Lane in Statesboro. First, so what I came for, but first I also commend Jess Gunner and the work he's doing, and I'm so pleased to hear the county's trying hard to work with him and to find some way we can safely reuse materials instead of sending so much to the dump. I'm glad Mr. Couch and Dink and others are also monitoring and trying to get back where we can recycle. I'll share the information. There's a local entrepreneur, Keith Howard, who runs the Galactic Comic Book Shop, and he has dedicated space in the back of his building just as a free service. Anybody who has clean cardboard boxes or needs clean cardboard boxes, he will accept them, he will store them, he will give them out for free. So that's one small way we can recycle cardboard right here in Statesboro now. The reason that I signed up, though, is I wanted to thank the commissioners as well as the Statesboro Ministerial Alliance for working with the city of Statesboro to plan a community memorial this Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock at the Courthouse Square. This Sunday will mark 1 year since the first person in Bulloch County died whose death was attributed to COVID. So finally it's safe enough that we can try to come together as a community and mourn the losses that many of us have suffered over the last year. The loss of people, the loss of traditions, the loss of things that we support one another, and it hasn't been safe to do it. So thank y'all for working with us to make this happen on Sunday. The support, and hope I'll see many of you there.
Thank you very much for the announcement. And we're all planning on being there if at all possible. Now, is there anyone else that needs to speak that did not have an opportunity to sign up? Now is the time. Alright, then we will move on. We will close the public comment, and we're going to move into the consent agenda. And we have several items on the consent agenda, and if y'all will notice tonight, we do not have anything on new business. So, if you are satisfied with the consent agenda, we can vote on them all together, or if you'd like to single anything out and move it under new business, we can certainly do so.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move item number 2 to new business, please.
All right, anyone else want to move anything? Then we need a motion to approve the consent agenda, the last item, number 2.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A motion, a second, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion, show of hands. Okay, unanimous approval of the consent agenda. Moving item number 2, which is the skid steer purchase, to under new business, and we will now have a discussion on that particular item. So, if you come through that, please.
Good evening. Thank y'all for the opportunity to give you some information here. This skid steer is something that we had some equipment money left in our purchasing this year, and we've not replaced, I think, a motor grader this year. We allowed it to continue on because it was in really good shape. But if you recall, when I did the presentation a while back about our responsibilities as public works and roadways and maintenance, we have a responsibility for road shoulder work to keep the shoulders of our roads. Some of them, I know all of you probably seen the drop-offs on the edges of the asphalt, and where sometimes dirt gets built up higher than the pavement and traps water along the edge of the road. Those are actually liabilities to us. If we know about them, we have a responsibility to try to correct that for public safety issues. So, in trying to research options, we came up with the idea for this skid steer, and it has an attachment that we can put on it. It keeps us from having to deter a motor grader to pave road maintenance, and some of you may remember some of our damages from trying to do work on the shoulders of roads with that motor graders. We dipped out some new asphalt on a couple of roads and things like that because it's such a big machine. And so this machine would allow us to be able to dress off the shoulders and take the additional dirt away, reclaim it, and move it down to areas where we can fill in some of those holes and help lessen our liabilities. Now, we've got over 500 miles of county maintained paved roads, and to be honest, that would, for at least a given while, would be a full-time job trying to get around and get all of those places corrected, at least in the initial advance against it. This particular machine would have the option of being able to accept some different additional equipment,
such as a broom to be able to sweep the edges of these roads before paving. Jacob and I talked about that a little bit today. We've had some issues in the past with trying to get our shoulders cleaned off for striping and different things like that as striping fades out. So there's also an attachment to be added to this machine that would allow us to do that as well, and not have to put that in contract. We may be able to advance that into that and save us some. Because what we're trying to do is keep the motor graders running on the dirt roads for maintenance issues. And because of the support from the warden, we have a real good staff of inmates right now for equipment operation. We're running basically 10 hired employees on equipment operation. We're running, with the approval of this, we'll be running 13 or 14 inmates on equipment operation. He's been able to search out and solicit particular qualified inmates to come here and use them for our advancement. And we would put one individual officer to watch these inmates and give him 3 inmates to set this crew up. We run 2 machines basically to get this process rolling, and have the other 2 for flagging traffic for safety issues. So that's our goal with the machine. As you can see, there's the price representation. Flynn Equipment, I think came in at low bid with, let me see here, $72,800. They initially represented that they could deliver that piece of equipment readily within a few days. On checking today, that piece of machinery is still on the assembly line in Iowa. So we don't know what that delivery date might be with that. Could be as much as 2 weeks or better before we could take possession of that. Blanchard came in at $100,000. I think they did adjust the secondary, but it was after we put this information in, but it was still over $80,000. Yancey came in at $76,000 with Caterpillar, and they have pledged the delivery on the new piece of equipment would be sometime in June, but they have pledged a machine for us to use until then at no cost. So it is a few dollars more. I've had some discussions with Commissioner Russian, and I think he may have a little bit of input as to machine qualities and which ones kind of last the best, or a recommendation at least on his part as to what he thinks would serve us best.
Well, I do. I own 3 Caterpillars myself, so I'm spending my money there, so I can tell you which one I think. But offset between the cat machine, and they're gonna give us that machine free of charge. I don't know the exact rental on that machine, but it would take up the difference in the cost between the John Deere and Yancey giving us that machine for free would probably be pretty much the same cost, but we can get the machine now instead of having to wait on it for forever. How long, we don't know. Yeah, they're gonna furnish this machine until we get our own, right?
That's the representation, is that it would be furnished until the new one comes in at no cost, is the representation that we got this afternoon. At this point, it would, to me, the sooner we address these issues, the more we lessen our liability of any issues going down the road with being able to perform this level of maintenance.
And with that being said, just getting off just a little bit on the skid steer, but we got the jetter machine in, and just fast forward for you a little bit. I think me and Dave talking, they're average new man on a new machine, and they're averaging 12, 15 volts a day, when the best we were doing was 3 with the inmates. And if we get this machine in with some determination, I think we can get our roads in pretty good shape, and it's dry. It's fixing to be the dry time of the season, and we don't need to be waiting on these machines for 3 or 4 months until it starts raining again.
Yeah, we're definitely making some advancements on our road maintenance, and the jetter machine, as Commissioner Russian mentioned, we're working out a few little details, little things here and there that are popping up, and we're having to learn a little bit as we go. We've not put the water truck in operation yet. We don't have an operator to drive that truck yet. So that truck, the jetter right now, the intent was to supply the water shuttle truck so the jetter never had to leave the work site. He could just move from culvert to culvert and just keep working. Right now, he's running approximately 4 culverts per load, and he's running 3 to 4 loads of water per day. So he's running somewhere between 12 and 16 culverts a day without shoveling water to him. So if we get to the advancement of getting that other position filled, we should be able to get well over 20 culverts per day cleaned out. So it'll be a big plus for us, and it works really well. But as I said, it is a maintenance tool. The next heavy rain we get, the ones we just cleaned out probably need to be flushed again. Hopefully they wouldn't take quite as much attention to flushing the second time, but that's just, it's a maintenance tool, but it's definitely doing us some good right now.
All right, do we have any discussion or questions from the commissioners? And the issue is, do we vote and we wait on the John Deere to get here that was a low bid? Or do we accept the offer from Caterpillar, which is a little bit higher, to furnish us a piece of equipment as early as tomorrow?
I'm not going to pledge tomorrow, but I would think within the next couple of days, as soon as we can sign the paperwork and acknowledge that we're purchasing the new machine from them.
And that's a loaner for free. So, and that's what we're voting on now. Do we wait, or do we accept the loaner and pay a little more money for the John Deere? For the Caterpillar, and so we can get to work on the shoulders of these roads immediately. Any discussion?
How long did you say it would take for the cat machine to get you? There's no loaners, is that?
The loaner?
How long would it take to get that one before the new one we buy comes in?
As soon as we can get the paperwork to them where we're pledging to buy the new one, I would expect it within a couple of days.
So it'll be rather soon then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the Caterpillar bid due to the reason that they want to give us a loan free, which we don't wait too much anything free these days. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? And all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. We are now moving to commissioner comments and or staff comments. Any staff here like to make a comment?
Will the chairman yield the floor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just briefly, one thing. On the morning meeting of the 20th, I'd like to ask that we, actually you all, accommodate a little more time than we normally have. I think we'll try to keep our business to a minimum, but there's probably at least 2 or 3 subjects that I believe we would like to discuss with you. First, I think public safety is going to give sort of a progress report. You may recall that we had a consultant study done for fire and EMS that was concluded at the end of last year. And fire and EMS have been tasked, after Ms. Steinman put together sort of a planning matrix of all the recommendations, to try to go over those recommendations and form an implementation plan, or at least a framework we can look at to accommodate those recommendations in future years. I don't think they'll be finished, but we expect that they'll be conducting some meetings, and we all would like to talk about how we would like to execute that plan in the short or intermediate term. I think there's a couple of things that we're doing already, but we focused a lot on fire in the last couple of months, but EMS was an important part of that study as well. And I think we want to reintroduce the recommendations in a more organized form that hopefully you'll understand better and it's put together better, and we can have a dialogue about that. I think, although I'm not optimistic that the Treasury Department will have guidance on the American Rescue Plan funds by the time we meet. I was listening to a White House call this morning, and you know, the way they describe it at this point, the Treasury Department, that is, they're kind of like in the third inning of a baseball game and trying to put that stuff together. So I'm thinking unless they really hop on the horse and ride, it'll probably be the end of April or early May. But I think we'd like to do, you know, provide some kind of plan for how we will use those funds, and I think it'll be a lot like the CARES Act. You know, my current thinking is it's not going to be any more restrictive than what the CARES Act money would be. It might be more flexible, but it might be, we might be revisiting the CARES Act and kind of describing what we would do with the ARPA money. And if engineering's ready in time, I think we need to talk about T-SPLOST too, the future, and both policy and politics, or not politics, I'm sorry. Well, maybe it is politics at the end of the day. Policy and projects, and how we want to go forward. Because the good news is, we are accumulating more money in T-SPLOST than we thought that we would a couple of years back. And I think it's time to try to put together some kind of framework for how to spend those additional funds. You might remember that we had several different categories. I know there's a lot of interest in paved roads, and we'll be focusing on paved roads, but also in the context of the other project categories too. So my estimation would be, although it might require a recess, you know, I would think we may have a relatively short business meeting. Maybe we recess, or we recess during the work session to discuss any of these issues. And in the course of that, if there's any particular reports from departments that you'd like to have on any given subject, let us know and we can throw that in the bucket of the meeting. But I think for right now, liberally, if we can plan the meeting to take place for a couple of hours, maybe 8:30 to say 10:30, 11 tops, depending upon how how good we are in the dialogue, maybe we end sooner. But I would ask you to consider accommodating that much time at the next meeting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other staff members? Commissioner comments? I might say this, you will find, I handed out some sheets. You'll find them, there must be 10 or 12, 15 of them. This is an issue that a citizen is having, and she's not here tonight, so I'm not going to discuss it tonight. But I would like for y'all to look through it, and I'm not even going to discuss the issues, but it's something that at some point in time we're going to need to discuss, like I said, at some point in time. So I do again want to reiterate about the COVID memorial. It is Sunday at 4 o'clock, and I certainly would appreciate it if all of y'all could be there. And so if you can get that into your schedule, please do so.
Mr. Chairman, I neglected to remind folks it will be socially distanced and masks required to keep us all safe.
Yes, ma'am. Then we will gather there as a group. So I want to share this with Tom and you commissioners also. There's some major decisions that's coming up in front of us as a board. And if we don't take the time to discuss it, and the citizen asks us about it, we're not going to be able to give them the answers. So I would like for y'all, if you certainly possibly can, to dedicate that time that Tom was talking about, 2.5, 3 hours, whatever it takes, so that y'all can fill us in on what's going on. And so plan on that is on the 20th, I believe you said.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, if you got any particular issues you want brought up, you know, let me, or if I'm out of pocket, I'll let you know, as soon as you can, so we can plan to have the right people here to discuss it if need be.
Okay. Is there anything else? I'm going to get to read one of my most favorite statements with this job, is that we will be going into an executive session. And I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 5014-2-1, OCGA 5014-3-B2, and other applicable laws for the purpose of consultation to discuss personnel matters. I need a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
I have a motion, second, all in favor, show of hands. We are now